Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Think about why you woke up this morning. For our young adults, they had no choice. Think about why you move. I don't just mean this morning, I mean, why do you move in any direction that you move in? And it will tend to fall in these categories. Okay? Over the last few discourses, I've given many frameworks so you can plot yourself on a graph and then lift from there. One force is called stagnation. Stagnation is where one doesn't move. Okay? At the bottom. Just for the sake of reference, someone like Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna sleeps for 6 months, eats for a day, and then sleeps for the remaining period. He's more like a bear than a human. Though some humans are more like that also. Some, they move because of provocation. Provocation. Provocation is an external force. And what this external force does is it pushes you down. If I provoke you, I'm pushing you down. Again, Ravana is a good example of that. Ravana and Bhagwan Rama were both high. Ravana because he pushed everyone down, Bhagwan Rama because he lifted everyone up. Ravana was a provoker. Yesterday I was talking about road rage. You get provoked. You provoke road rage. More evolved than that is motivation. Motivation is an external force that pulls you up. But the key point there is that it's external. And as soon as that external force is gone, what happens to us? We fall back to where we were. I was mentioning about post such experiences, we go back to how we were, which means that we were only motivated, but not subtler than that. More evolved is inspiration. Inspiration is an internal force that pushes you up. So to go from motivation to inspiration, internalization is needed. So it becomes independent of context. So I will be finished today. Our retreat will be finished tomorrow. If you've been inspired, these discourses and retreat will never end. Formally they must. But fundamentally, they don't need to. More evolved than that is love. Why does one move? Love. And love is an internal force that pulls you up. Which is why I mentioned that if love doesn't keep growing, it's not love. And if love is this moving factor, you keep pulling yourself up. You keep pulling yourself up. Till you can't pull yourself up anymore. And the evolution of love is be. Being. Infinity. Which I'll elaborate on more today. We are trying to grow up. We're trying to lift ourselves from provocation to motivation to inspiration to love. And we're learning this from someone who loved us. Going to the time of Vishnu Gupta, this was the same time that Alexander was in Bharat. And in Bharat at the time, we used the word Bharat, but it was no Bharat. Each person felt separate, each kingdom felt separate, everyone was fighting for themselves. And Alexander, he capitalized on this. When you see people fighting, that's the time when they're weak, right? Divide them more. That has happened to Bharat endlessly. And Alexander capitalized on that. However, Chanakya, he lifted those people up to a greater identification. The people with the kingdoms with the nation. And when they came together, Alexander couldn't push anymore. He had to retreat. He lifted their identification. He lifted their love. He lifted their altar. Now we talk about seva. Imagine that level of seva. And it was all facilitated through hope. He gave people hope. Hope is a building block of living. In our terminology, we would say confidence. If someone is confident, nobody can touch that person. But if you lack confidence, that person can't do anything. With Chanakya, what we remember when we think of Chanakya is hope. This is the love. This is who we're learning love from. And every time I think of hope, I think of Batman. If you remember the last Dark Knight movie, it's the last scene. And Batman is talking to Commissioner Gordon. And Commissioner Gordon is saying, "Why are you leaving?" He's talking to Batman. Because Batman's about to, what Commissioner Gordon thinks is Batman's going to die. But we all know Batman never dies. So Commissioner Gordon is talking to Batman and he says, who can be you? And he says, anyone who gives hope, essentially. He says, even that level of hope where you reassure a young boy that everything will be okay. And that's exactly what happened in young Bruce Wayne's life, is that his parents were just killed. And he's taken to the police station, and all Commissioner Gordon says is, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. And that hope he gave that young Bruce Wayne, look at how much he did. Hope. We are studying evolution. We may study evolution in our universities, but it's theoretical. We are studying application evolution. From me to, don't say it too happily, to we to, he then be. That was one framework. I gave you another one. We should go from brahmacharis to grihastas, vanaprasthas, sannyasis. Yesterday I gave you another framework. We go from swakripa to Acharya Kripa to Shastra Kripa, and then Ishvara Kripa. I give you one more framework now, which I've just introduced, to go from motivation to inspiration to love, to be. Discourse 1 was about motivation. Discourse 2 was about inspiration. Discourse 3 about love. And now Discourse 4 about being. And please keep in mind, these are all buddhis. If you're not a vanaprastha, do you think this becomes irrelevant? Do you think vanaprastha is an age? Do you think sannyasa is a color? It's a buddhi. It's a vritti. And if you think otherwise, you've taken that which is so evolved and we've debased it then. We've taken jnana and made it karma. This is all a buddhi. It's all a vision. Don't get lost in ages and don't get lost in stages. A review from yesterday. The first shloka that we studied yesterday evening talked about how when we're in environments with sadhus, often people will distract us. Who will distract us? Family, community. Sometimes, parents will tell their kids, be religious, but don't be too religious. You've heard that before. Next time your parents say that to you, change the word religious to happy. Be happy, but don't be too happy. Because that's really what they're sharing, isn't it? Would any parent say that? Don't be too happy. But really, that's what we say when we say, don't be too religious. In the first shloka we studied in the evening, the key word there is commit. Commit to the higher, and once you commit, then all that is lower can't move you. Commit. And here is where Swami Tejavananda separates the word sacrifice and compromise. Compromise is where you let go of the higher and hold on to the lower. The naturally sacrifice is where you hold on to the higher and so you have to let go of the lower. And the examples of that are a corrupt politician, compromise. Holding on to his or her pocket, what nation? And then you see the patriot who holds on to the nation and whatever happens to their pocket, not important. If you commit, you don't compromise. And if you don't commit, you will compromise. The next shloka, the key is to serve. After we've committed to whatever cause, we need to serve that cause. And the most significant way we can serve is to give what people need. And what is it that people need? Vidya, knowledge. All else that we need is temporary. It's physiological. But vidya is not. In 2009, we had an overseas Acharyas conference. So there was 60 of us from all over the world who had come. And at that time, it was the last day of the workshop that Guruji was facilitating, Swami Tejavananda. He said Chinmaya Mission is built on 2 pillars. What are those 2 pillars? Acharyas. And the second pillar? Grahastas. Who is Guruji talking to? The Acharyas. Overseas Acharyas conference. Only those 60 or so people are there. 2 pillars. Now you take this structure. We're on an elevated structure. If we remove a supporting wall or a pillar, what happens to the rest of the structure? First weakened and then it will collapse. 2 pillars. Now, when we look at Acharyas, we have this notion of they're directly serving. But for all of those people who are supporting Acharyas, aren't you directly serving also? I'll give you an example. Can I have the volume down a little bit more, please? I can still hear a little bit of vibrating in the back. There's a sevika who drives me to and from the airport quite often. And when she asks me, where are you going? What are you teaching? So I tell her, I'm going here and I'm teaching this. And she says, I wish I could do what you do. And I told her, you are doing what I'm doing. You drive me to the airport, you make me breakfast when I'm traveling, and I can get books delivered to your home. All of those very functional matters. If you don't do that, then I have to do that. Then I can't travel and teach, right? So we're both serving. Serve knowledge, because it lasts forever. We commit, we serve, and as we serve, that has to evolve to being dedicated. And dedication is not restricted by space, time, or matter. You have to be dedicated in every experience, every moment. And great examples from our Shastras. When Hanumanji was dedicated to Sugriva, what kind of person was Hanumanji? A servant. Sugriva is this great, Hanumanji is this great. Then he began serving Bhagwan Rama. Bhagwan Rama's that great. What happened to Hanumanji? From a servant to a savior. When we're scared, we chant Hanuman Chalisa. When we want hope, we chant Hanuman Chalisa. And the famous dialogue where Bhagwan Rama asks Hanumanji, Hum aapke hain kaun? That came Sanatana Dharma, see? And he says, from the body level, I am your servant. From the ego level, I am part of you. From the spirit level, I am you. See the dedication at all levels. It's not even service anymore, it's you are living for Bhagwan Rama. And then this evolves to the fourth shloka. The summary is love. And I love studying love through Vedanta. It's something we just do not study elsewhere. When we love, which is going from dedicated living to loving, then there's not a single day or moment when you are working, right? If you love what you do, it's not called work, it's called play. If you love what you do, it's not karma anymore, it's jnana, because it's vision. You want to know how to go from the karma kanda to the jnana kanda? Love what you do. We think jnana kanda, do nothing. Too much a literal interpretation. Jnana kanda means you don't feel like you're doing a karma. The ego is not present. And I ask so many people, I'll ask you, do you love what you do? In one place, it's happening right now too. In one place I had finished talks on chapter 13 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And I said, how many of you will be enlightened in this lifetime? One lady puts her hand up in the back. Looks around, nobody else had their hand up, so she put her hand down. Nobody else is going to get enlightened. I don't want to go then. Loving what you do, people have their hand up. Oh, I don't think I do. I drive a lot. I think I drive like 25,000 miles a year. So one of my car gurus is NPR. And NPR was teaching me what the typical low point of the week is for males and females, separate. We'll start with the males because it's more obvious. Males, what is the low point of the week for you? Someone said right now. Think. Monday morning. Monday morning when you're engaged in your dharma that you have to engage in, those unseen tears keep flowing down our face. Now females, what is the low point of the week for you? Fridays, Friday evenings. Because you're doing what males are doing Monday to Friday, and now you have to do what males don't do. So Friday evening. And why that's funny but sad is that you have to go to school or work or run errands. Then why are you crying? And that shows we don't love what we do. We may like what we do, but that's not the same as love. Like and love on Facebook are different, right? It's a different emoticon. Now you can see how many likes, how many loves. We continue now, and I want you to please keep remembering those frameworks. We went from me, now we're at B. We went from brahmachari buddhi to sannyasa buddhi. From swakripa, that's where you start, now it's brahma kripa. You know, we're up here now, we're learning to be up here. We're going from motivation to being. I'm on chapter 3, shloka 10. Tyajed ekam kulasyarthe gramasyarthe kulam tyajed gramam jadapadasyarthe atmarthe prithivim tyajed. And you know these words. Tyajed ekam. You should give up one for the artha, for the sake of the kula. You should be ready to give up the individuality for the family. Make sense? And do we need to study a scripture to know that? For the sake of the grama we can call community. For the sake of that, we should be willing to give up the family. The kula has to be given up. Janapada, for the sake of the society or humanity, in this case it says nation, but that level, we should be ready to give up the grama, which is the family and community. Remember, Swami Chinmayananda did not work for Chinmaya Mission, nor Sanatana Dharma. He worked for humanity, including animals and plants. And then the most important point, atmarte, for the sake of the self, prithivim tyajet, you should be ready to give up the world. It's exactly what we're studying, isn't it? For the sake of the self, for the sake of infinity, we have to be ready to give up that which is not infinite. We'll elaborate. When I use the word vairagya, tyaga, tell me what words come to your mind. Go, just say it. Detachment, sacrifice, knowledge, dispassion. Those aren't the real words you think of. Boring. See, one honest person. Someone else, not me. Literally, vairagya is often defined as dispassion. You know, go tell the Golden State Warriors, coach, okay? Players, play dispassionately today. What will the players say? Go tell a singer, sing dispassionately. Those are just words. I had heard that you should never detach. Because the mind doesn't work like that, isn't it? The mind doesn't know don'ts. What we need to do is attach. By attaching, detaching becomes natural. Think of rock climbing. If you're holding on to higher grips, only then do you pull your feet off, right? You don't just pull your feet off if you don't have a grip there. Vairagya means passion for giving. When we say dispassion, it means you shouldn't have a passion for getting. You should have a passion for giving. So here, if my passion is towards Atman, if this is what I want, love and want to be, then what? What is the individual or the family or the community or society or humanity. Those are all means, but the ends is infinity, Atman. And please remember, if you're looking after infinity, who's included? Everyone else that was listed. Finitude is in infinitude. Let's make this more real. Animals, humans. Animals have an intellect, but it's not developed. Humans have an intellect that can be developed. Animals cannot be enlightened. Humans can be enlightened. If you delete the common variables, that really means a developed intellect is for enlightenment. That's what that Atma is to use this intellect only for Atma. And I say that we have an intellect, but if you don't use it, you lose it. And then you're known as Buddhu. Buddhu means you have a buddhi, but you don't use it. Goswamiji says, Buddhihina tanujanike. And that's a very beautiful line. Buddhihina means I have a buddhi, but I don't use it. And how do I know that? Because I think I'm tanu. I think I'm the body. And janike, you know that. So help me. We humans are fortunate, bhagya, to be humans. In our Bhagavad Gita course, I was telling them that there are 9 rungs that take you from samsara, or dependency, out of samsara, into freedom. This is how Vivekachudamani begins. And what is step number 1? Being a human. Being a human means being humane, not just looking like a human. Some people don't look like humans, but they're more humane. Some people look very attractive, but not humane at all. And I'll make this a little bit more clear. Stones, plants, animals, I'm pointing outside, not at anyone over there, and devatas, wherever they live, they're all called bhoga yonis. Stones become plants, plants become animals, animals become humans, devatas become humans. These beings just exhaust vasanas. Bhoga means it is through experience that they evolve. They only evolve. Now you're thinking, how did the devatas become humans? Did you know that in Devaloka, all the girls are 16 and a half years old? And you don't age. Awesome. And how old are all the males? 22 and a half. That's in your vrikodra. And you can eat whatever you want and you'll digest it. As soon as you become 25 and 30, that starts, even if you don't eat, you still add on more. In heaven, nobody ages, nobody dies. So what do they do in heaven? It's like an all-inclusive resort. They just enjoy, but eventually you run out of money, correct? You have to come back home Monday mornings, Friday evenings. But as humans, we're born with a mixture of papa and punya, hardships and easy living. And what do we learn more in? Hardships. It's because of Prince Arjuna's Vishada. What's the next word? Yoga. No Vishada, no yoga. To be grateful for Vishada. Vishada means to be bitten by poison, by hardships. Then we start to grow. As a human, this opportunity is only for us. We're called yoga yonis. We can go up or we can go down. And you have the equipment to take you to the highest. So use it or lose it. In Vivekachudamani again, Acharya Shankara says, that person who doesn't strive for enlightenment, what have they done? Atmahatya. They've committed suicide. But not of the body, of that opportunity. How to do this? Here is our sadhana. Okay? Chanakya has given us the vidya and the nisheda, the do's and don'ts. I'm assigning another practice to this. Nitya, every day, we should practice stillness. Every day, practice stillness. Keep the body still, the breath still, the mind still, the intellect still. Just be still. And if we be still, we'll start to feel silence. Can I prove that to you? Not that you have a choice. I'll do whatever I want from here. On the count of 3, I want you to yell as loud as you can. You may never have this opportunity again, so make use of it. I'm sanctioning you to yell as loud as you can. Okay? 1, 2, 3. And now? Silence. What do you have to do to create silence? Anything you're doing is taking you away from silence, isn't it? So if you start to still these noisemakers, body, breath, mind, intellect, you start to feel that silence is always there. So practice stillness. Now I've been very specific, so 5 minutes, okay? Walk for 30, read for 20, review for 10. Now I'm assigning 5 minutes for this too. I'm on chapter 5, shloka 13. Chapter 5, shloka 13. Janma mrityu hi yatyekaha bhunatyeka shubha shubham narakeshu patatyekaha eko yati param gatim. Janma, birth. Mrityu, death. Hi yat ekaha. How are you born? Alone. How will you die? Alone. Ekaha is in every pada here, every quarter. Bhunaktu ekaha. You will experience alone shubha and ashubha. All of the highs and lows, who's going to experience it? You will. How? Alone. Narakeshu, going to hell, patatyekaha, or going to that which is higher. Who will go? You will, again, alone. Yati param gatin, which is the heaven part. You will fall into hell or you will rise into heaven alone. Let's think about this more. What does Advaita mean? What does it mean? It doesn't mean knowledge. Advaita doesn't mean knowledge. Advaita means one. One or alone. They're really synonymous in philosophy. So now think about that. When you think of Advaita, do you think of oneness or aloneness? Because here, Chanakya is teaching us to think about aloneness. Gurudev says the same. You come alone, you go to the alone. How? All alone. Real Advaita is where you think, speak, and act in that aloneness. That there is only one subject. There is only one subject. It's too infinite, this Advaita. But I wanted you to think about it, not from a oneness. You know, oneness is very Valentine's Day. But the aloneness, ekaki, that's bhakti. I'll give you some more to think about. What was Valmiki Ji's name prior to Valmiki Ji? Ratnakara. Ratnakara thought that he was serving his wife and son. And one day, the Narada Muni came and questioned him on that, called him on that. Go ask your wife and son if they will share the Shubha and the Ashubha, the Naraka and the Devaloka. Are they going to come with you? And what does he say right away? Of course. And when he asks them, she says, of course not. And that just destroys his sense of reality. But it was a beautiful destruction because look at the construction that came after that. Our only friend while we're alive and at the time of death is Dharma. Because what does Dharma lead you to? Brahma. What does Nandi lead you to? Shiva. And nobody else does. Only Dharma. That is the way you lived. The dedication, the responsibility is your only friend. Not the people around you. That's reality. Every relationship we have has been created in time, and so it will be uncreated in time, other than our relationship with our Creator, which is beyond time. And we give every relationship precedence other than our relationship with our Creator, right? You're offering your puja and the phone rings. Telemarketer, appointment to clean your pool, whatever it is. Bhagwan, you wait. This pool is more important that I never use, but I own it. See the hypocrisy. We make time for everyone, but the self. Sheila taught me this. I have a Sadguru in my life. I have many gurus. Sheila is one of my gurus. She tells it like it is. And I'm grateful for her for that. Imagine I just lived by myself. Who would tell me I'm wrong? Who would tell me that I should improve my cleaning habits? Correct? It's when you are interacting with people that you get rubbed. Ego against ego takes your ego away. But if there's no ego to rub against, then often our ego just grows more. So she was telling me. She asked me, can you come to our niece's birthday party? And what was my response? It was more of a reaction. I don't have time. And then she very calmly said, you will make time for whatever you want to do. And you know when she said this? Right after I'd driven from Pittsburgh to Baltimore, went to a Pearl Jam concert, and drove 10 hours back to attend to a discourse. She said that right after. She never said that, but I knew that's what she was talking about. Isn't it true that we will make time for whatever we want? Do you want Brahman? Do you want independent joy? Right now, if you could choose to be enlightened, would you choose it? Our hands will go like this again. We're just stretching. You know what Swami Tejamananda shared? He said we don't fear death. We fear detachment. If we can all die with our family and friends and stuff, no problem. Right? New body will look good. Our only friend is Dharma, not family, community, society, humanity. And you know who interestingly taught this he finally learned this was Alexander. When Alexander had died, he told his ministers, when you carry me through the streets, make sure my hands are outside of that coffin, casket, whatever it is, so that the whole world can see that I left with nothing. Awesome. Good for him for learning that after he created so much negativity, but at least he learned that. And how are you born? Show me your hands. Like this. You're not born like this. You're born like this. You're born like this and you die like this. In both cases, nothing comes in that hand, correct? Other than dharma. One day, someone had gone to Swami Chinmayananda and said, Gurudev, save me! Swami Chinmayananda said, why? I'm going to hell. Why? I've cheated so many people, I've insulted so many people, I'm going to go to hell. And Swami Chinmayananda said, relax, you're not going anywhere. And he says, how can you say that? You're already there. Isn't heaven and hell where you? If you're adharmic, hell. Who spoke the most in the beginning of chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita? Duryodhana, in the beginning of chapter 1. Because he was so scared. When you're scared, you talk more. Bhishmacharya was quiet. He wasn't scared because he's dharmic. Here is our sadhana. How many of you have come on a yatra with me to other places? West Coast. No comment. I'll give you some context to this, since many of you have not been on yatras with me. When I joined the ashram, I knew no one. I knew no one who went to the ashram either. I told you, I was never a Balavar student or a chick. I didn't know any of the acharyas. And when I was sitting there, first day of our course, okay, I'm here. I don't know where I am, but I'm here. And I have to be here for 25 months now. And Guruji walks to the front. Brahmachari's here, Brahmachari's here. He says, for the next 2 years, you will be given what you need. And if you're not given it, you don't need it. All they gave us was 2 useless dhotis and kurtas and a small umbrella. But what's amazing about that is really that's all we did need. Because you had to focus on dharma then. Anyway, so when our yatris show up in Mumbai, at Sandeepany, you know, they're jet lagged, they just finished their exams, they're not feeling well, and I make them sit outside. Not even inside the discourse hall, outside. And then I tell them the same thing. For the next 20 days, you will be given what you need. And if you don't get it, you don't need it. And then I see their reaction. And then I laugh inwardly. And then I go on to tell them. For the next 20 days, there are 3 C's which you cannot engage in. And the only way not to engage this is to engage in the 4th C. What is the first C that you cannot engage in? No complaining. And for those who complain too much, what is the 2nd C? No criticizing. And if you criticize too much, what is the 3rd C? No crying. Unnecessarily. And what is the only way to stop complaining, criticizing, and crying? By being, what is the 4th C? Content. And those yatris love it. After our first yatra, 2 people called their parents and said, we're staying in Bharat. Their parents, you're being too religious, come home. And these are people from here. Like, I was born in Canada. And I never got to know what Bharat is till I lived there for a year. Because prior to that, mosquitoes and dirt. Mosquitoes still I am concerned about, but dirt and heat and rain and no personal space and all of that. But that's just the surface. But the spirit of Bharat is just there. So there was a man who felt like traveling. So he started traveling the world. And he showed up in Argentina. He went to a church in Argentina. And as he was looking at the altar, he noticed a golden material on the side. So he came more closely, and above there was a sign that said, "This phone calls God. Please insert $10,000 to make this phone call." So he talked to the priest there and said, you know, what kind of gimmick is this? He said, no, this phone you can call God. You just have to give $10,000. he didn't think about it too much. He ends up in China. And he's at a temple there. Same phone. But just written in Chinese and Chinese currency, but same. And he asked not a pujari, the facilitator there, said the same thing. Now he's in Varanasi. Same phone, same sign, but it says 1 rupee. To use this phone, insert 1 rupee. And he asks the pujari there, I was in Argentina at a church, and I was at a temple in China, and now I'm at this mandir in Bharat. But those are $10,000 essentially. This is 1 rupee. Why the difference? And this pujari says, Beta, don't you know? This is a local call. To tune into the spirit of Bharat, you have to go past the surface. So your sadhana, let me simplify. Your sadhana is, before you complain, you have to do a cost-benefit analysis to see if there's a point in complaining. What are the costs of complaining? What are the benefits of complaining? And if the costs are greater than the benefits, don't complain. And I'm saying if the benefits are greater, do complain. But nobody will listen, so I don't know why you're complaining. So that's your sadhana, cost-benefit analysis. Because when you complain, you become irresponsible. Your friend, which is dharma, goes away. But if you don't complain, you stay responsible, you stay dharmic, then birth, death, hell, heaven, none of that means anything. There's only Brahman. You're following the sadhana. Okay, I go to the third shloka for today, chapter 7, shloka 21. Chapter 7, shloka 21. Pushpe gandham tile tailam kashtegni payasi ghritam ikshau gudam tata dehe pashyatmanam vivekataha. Pushpe gandham. What's inside of a flower? Fragrance. Tile tailam. What's inside of seeds? Oil. Kashte agni. What's inside of wood? Fire. Payasi ghritam. What's inside of milk? Ghee, butter. Ikshau gudam tata dehe. What's inside of your body? Pashyatmanam. See, inside of your body is the Atman. But how can you see? Only with Viveka. Vivekataha is what's shared here. Viveka, which means discrimination, which is also an interesting definition. Okay. Next year, suppose we do this retreat, and we put a huge sign on the front that says, join us, President's Day weekend, for a full weekend on discrimination. Your own security will lock the doors here. Viveka, made real, is prioritization. What's important? Here, in this shloka, Chanakya is trying to teach us what is important is the self, is Atman. What does Atman mean? Atman means self. Okay, what does self mean? Soul. What does soul mean? Spirit. We just keep using reference points to use reference points, which means we don't get anywhere. Atman means that which is closest. Not the body, not the mind, not the ego, your nature. Viveka has to lead us to Shraddha. What does Shraddha mean? Faith. Shraddha means to hold on to. Whatever you've made important, in this case Atman, you have to hold on to that. your thoughts, your words, your actions have to all be holding on to that. How many of you have gone through your Upanayana Samskara? When did you do it? Probably the day you got married. Your Upanayana Samskara should happen between the ages of 8 to 12. Males and females. Not a single female had their hand up. Females also. But so many of us don't know this, so we don't do it. And you can't get married without having your Upanayana. So you're already inviting the priest, get both done. Buy one, get one free, free when it comes to the samskaras, right? Finish them both off. You wear an Upanayana, which is made up of 3 threads, and they're all knotted around what is called the Brahma Granthi, which means your thoughts, words, and actions should all be tied around Brahma. You grow up from being a kid to a student. And that thread actually divides your body in half. If you think of your body, if you think of an animal, the genital organ, stomach, heart, and head are on the same plane. Yes? Typical animal. Think of a human. Genital organ, stomach, heart, head. That should be our priority. For an animal, they're the same. And when you become a student, stop focusing on enjoyment and your stomach, start focusing on your heart and head development. So, faith is to hold on with our thoughts, words, and actions, in this case, to the self. How many of you believe in God, by a show of hands? You believe in Bhagwan. I'm noting whose hands are not up right now. Okay? How many of you, the past week or month, have experienced some sort of worry? Show of hands. Some sort of worry. Some sort of fear. Are you seeing? You had your hand up for you believe in God, and you had your hand up for worry. You had your hand up for fear. What God are you believing in then? Is your God the president? By definition, God, Bhagwan, is the one who's infinitely virtuous, all-pervading, all-powerful, all-knowing. What are you worried about? What are you afraid of? We have belief, but we do not have faith. And we don't have Shraddha because the Viveka is weak. We just don't know what's important. Remember that word, prioritization. It's a very business school word. It's very developmental. To go from belief to faith to trust. Remember these 3 words. Belief. Belief is head. Faith is heart. Trust is hands. You go from being an intellectual, which is all of us right now, belief here, but we don't feel what we believe in, so the faith is weak. And trust is not there. Trust is when you live for what you feel and you believe it. How do you go from belief to faith? How many of you have had an arranged marriage? I don't know your history. I shall tell you about my parents' history. I never had an arranged marriage, but my parents did. My mother and father, when they got married on belief. My father thought my mother was okay looking, and my mother thought my father was okay looking, and their parents thought that they were both okay. Belief. So they got married. Now, if they stay at belief, how long is that marriage going to last? My parents celebrated their 40th anniversary last year. 3 kids, 2 grandkids, 2 more on their way. They just completed the Vedanta course in Siddhabari. I only studied for 25 months. They studied for 30 months. And it's because they went from belief to faith. They started sharing bank accounts. They started sharing the purpose of raising children together. That faith went to trust. They lived in a small room together for 30 months. Right? Faith won't even hold that. It has to go to trust that we're here for a deeper reason. Belief to faith comes with mananam. Mananam, reflection. You reflect on the subject. When you make that subject your own, you start to have faith. And then naturally, how do you go from faith to trust? Nididhyasana. Now this is a funny word too. Funny in our understanding. Tell me, what does nididhyasana mean? What does it mean? Abidance. No? I know you're thinking meditation, but you know I'm going to say that's wrong. Nitaram dhyaihi is nididhyasana. Dhyaihi means to call to mind, to remember. But the key word is nitaram. Nitaram means always. If you think nitaram means meditation, then when do you meditate? For 30 minutes in a room that's dark? That doesn't mean nitaram. Nitaram means always. It means practice. When you study Acharya Vivek, just the beginning portion of the text talks about closed eye meditation, and the remaining text talks about open eye meditation. To go from faith to trust, you have to practice. From your heart to your hands, you have to live this then. And how beautifully in Ramayana it's shown. What's the first marriage that takes place in Goswamiji's Ramayana? Mother Parvati and Bhagwan Shiva. It's called Ramayana, but they get married first. Why? Shraddha and Vishwasa have to get married before Bhagwan takes birth. Isn't that amazing? Faith and trust have to get married before Bhagwan or self or Ananda finds place. Amazing, no? Our scriptures are the best. Scriptures are the best. I don't mean this in a possessive. Here is our sadhana. The essence of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is na anushochanti panditaha. Here, it's not the word pandit like we know as a pujari. Panditaha means someone who has trust, which means it's built on faith, which is built on belief. Your mantra, your nitya mantra, your nididhyasana is to keep on remembering, keep on speaking, keep on acting. Na anushochanti panditaha. So if it's raining outside, na anushochanti panditaha. If there's traffic, what is it? Na anushochanti panditaha. Those who have trust, they do not suffer. If you get into a car accident, na anushochanti panditaha. If anything happens, that is your mantra. Forever. Till you go from belief to faith to trust. Here's a riddle for you, just to make sure this is clear. If you know the answer, don't shout it out. It's so displeasing when you ask a riddle and everyone has their hand up right away, or people shout it out. There's an etiquette to answering riddles. What four-word phrase, and each word has 4 letters. If you say it to a happy person, they become sad. And if you say it to a sad person, they become happy. All English words. You have to say that in such places. You know who are the worst people to play taboo with? Indians. Because if you don't specify English, they just go on in their regional languages. That defeats the purpose of the game. How many words in the phrase? How many letters in each word? Happy person becomes? Sad person becomes? Here's your hint, first hint. The second word is this. Swami Chinmaya loved teaching this. Third word is will. First word is even. Even this will pass. Na anushochanti panditaha. Outside, that will change. Surface, that will change. Inside, that will change. But the Atman, it doesn't. And our last shloka that we will study from the 331 shlokas, 17 chapters. This is our 16th shloka. 5%. Think about how much more there is to study. Chapter 12, shloka 13. Matravat paradarascha paradravyani loshtavat atmavat sarva bhutani yaha pashyati sa pashyati. What does this say? Matravat, which means like a mother. Who should you consider like a mother? Paradara. Dara means wife, but it means spouse, significant other. To treat another person's loved one as your mother, father, sister, brother. To treat another person as that level of relationship. Paradravyani, someone else's wealth, what should you envision that as? Loshtavat. What does loshta mean? Your diamond ring? Your Tesla? Yeah, let's trade. It's all good. Atmavat sarva bhutani. To treat all bhuta. Bhuta doesn't mean ghosts. Bhuta doesn't mean people. Bhuta means creation. Those who are being. To treat all beings as that which is closest. It's sad to see how putreshana, or pleasure, or sexuality is becoming the primary driving force for people's lives. I think the most popular word that's searched on the internet is pornography. Not God, not the dictionary, not the weather, pornography. But if you can treat all beings, including the person on that screen or picture, as the closest to you, would you ever want to look at that screen or picture in the way that we're looking at it or thinking about it? If you see that, you should just smile because it's your reflection, right? That's what we learned yesterday. Yaha pashyati, sa pashyati. Only that person sees and nobody else. This is almost directly pulled from many shlokas in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Don't think this is not a shastra. It is science. So let's elaborate. In chapter 6 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna gives or shows Prince Arjuna a carrot. It's just a small, kind of dried up carrot in shloka 8. He says, for the person who knows how to contemplate, they will think that a clod of earth and a stone and a piece of gold are functionally different but fundamentally the same. And Arjuna says, so? Are we there yet? I'm bored. So then Bhagavan Krishna brings out paneer. He brings out, what Arjuna wants in shloka 9. And he says, for that person who knows how to meditate, to contemplate, he says, what is the first one? Not Ari, not Dvesha. Oh, what is that lowest type of relationship? I'll come to it, okay? Ari, Dvesha, Madhyastha, Udasina, Madhyastha, Bandhaha, Mitra, Sadhu, Suhrid, Sadhu. What was the lowest one? Papi, got it. Papi, thank you. There's 9 types of relationships that Bhagavan Krishna enlists in Shloka 9. Okay? Starts off with, and this is a beautiful subject. I once did a family camp on dharmic living with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when I categorize these relationships like that, and I'm going to try to be very efficient with conveying this to you. Here are the ugly relationships. Starting with the ugliest. Ugly where? Not outside. Inside. Papi. Papi is someone who does not live by the scriptures. In other words, someone who doesn't want to learn. Easier than that is an Ari. Ari means enemy. An enemy is someone who hurts you even though you've not hurt them. Ari. Easier is Dvesha. Someone who hurts you because you hurt them. It's like the revenant. It's a revengeful relationship. Easier than that. Now we're in the bad relationships, okay? Poetically, because family is included in this. We go to Udasina. Udasina means an acquaintance. If you get the job, good, and if you don't get the job, good. Madhyastha, easier. A well-wisher. They want you to get the job. But it's just at a wishing level. It's at a sympathy level. Then, Bandhu. Bandhu means family. And you know why Madhusudana Saraswati, you know how he defines family? Someone who is affectionate because they have to be. So family really brings that legality out. Because you have the same blood type, you have to be affectionate. Which is why higher than Bandhu is Mitra. Now I'm in the good part. The easiest people to live with. Mitra, he defines as someone who's affectionate not because they're your family. It's by choice. A friend. Easier than that is Suhrid. And now, this is iceberg. So few people. Suhrid literally means good-hearted, but a better definition is large-hearted. A Suhrid is someone who gives without expectation. Is there anyone we interact with that doesn't want something back from us? There's only 2 types of relationships that are Suhrid. One is between a parent and an infant. Parents, do you expect anything from your infants? They cry, you're happy. They smile, you're happy. They vomit, you're happy. Correct? Just them being is enough. And the other? Guru Shishya. Someone had once asked Swami Chinmaya, Gurudev, what do you expect of your students? And what he said was, you have to see him saying that. If you see me on the street, smile at me. That's all he expected. At whatever level student, if you see me, smile at me. And we're learning to do that as our sadhana. Suhrid. And the best type of person to bring into our lives is sadhu. Someone who lives by the scriptures. So I told you the carrot was earth, stone, gold. They're all the same. Yeah, fine. But then Shloka 9, he says, the person who knows how to meditate Functionally, they know they're all different, but fundamentally they are the same. You know, the varnas, the colors. I don't know why we think the varnas are like this. The varnas are like this. The ashramas are not like this. If you're taking like this, you're looking at it literally. The ashramas are like this. Not better, different. That's my problem with the LGBTQIA flag, is that they put the rainbow like this. The rainbow should be like this. It's not a hierarchy, it's a spectrum. In this shloka, what is shared is the purpose. The purpose of every being is to have this vision that every being is your mother or father or relative. That every object is fundamentally sat, existence. That every experience is the closest to you. The way that you love yourself. When you move your finger, you do not flinch. The same with every experience. Yaha pashyati, sa pashyati. Nobody else can see other than this purpose, this performance. And so our final sadhana, number 16, whenever there's a pause in your day, the pause could be a stoplight, the pause could be you boiling water for tea or pressing the button on the Keurig, whatever your pause is, I want you to go through an exercise of nama, rupa, satta. What is the nama of this? Stone. Rupa, oval. Satta, or the deepest aspect of this, what is this? Existence. Nama, bottle. Rupa, bottle. Satta, existence. What is the name of this? Hand. Rupa, 5. Satta, existence. Functionally, they're different. I can't go through security with this. I can go through security with this. Security won't catch this. Functionally, they're different, but fundamentally, it's all satta. And who are you? You fear death, right? Because it's different than you, which means you are satta also. Go through that exercise. A few years ago, I was invited to teach a group of kids in Washington, D.C. This was they were 6 and 7-year-olds, right after lunch, in the summer. Naraka. And so I'm sitting there, and you have this group of kids who don't want to be there at that particular time. And I'm praying like Swami Vivekananda prayed before he spoke at the Parliament of World Religions. I'm praying for, give me a message. Help me teach this class. And when I opened my eyes, I saw boxes of Lego beside me. So I went to those boxes and gave each child 2 handfuls of Lego, and they went into Savikalpa Samadhi. Just focused. Everything we want to be, they were. And I said, for the next 15 minutes, you can build whatever you want. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And then I asked them, please tell me what you build. So spaceships and homes and cars and all of that. And then what did I ask them to do? Slowly break it. And I went from sadhu to papi. I was a papi to them. And then I asked them, what did you have in the beginning? Legos. What did you have at the end? Legos. What did you have in the middle? Legos. From the perspective of the Legos, what was in the middle? Legos. Just because you call it spaceship doesn't make it a spaceship. just because you call yourself Deepak or Priya or Joe or Vivek doesn't mean that you're separate. Just because I'm however old and you're however old and you weigh that much and you were born over here doesn't make us separate. But you have to practice nididhyasana for that to become real. We'll go through our 16 sadhanas and then I'll wrap up our retreat, discourses. Can you do this without looking at your paper? Indian style. Sadhana number 1. Go for a freedom walk. Number 2. Use a planner. Number 3. Read an inspiring book. 4. Review what you learned every day. Next discourse. Number 1. A growth forecast every season. Someone said weather. Every season forecast your growth, which means you have to reflect on how the past season was also. Number 2. Give in measurables. Your resources and your time. Number 3. What was 3? Weekly development. Study group every week. Number 4. Meal for one. Eating a meal by yourself. I go to yesterday evening's discourse. The first sadhana. Speak to Bhagwan. Number 2. Speak positively. Number 3. Om Shivaya Samarpayami. Well, that was done today before the discourse began, right? And number 4, smile when you see your reflection. How many of you have started doing that? It's hilarious what you see in the mirror, right? You know what will blow your mind? You've actually never seen your face. You've only seen the reflection of your face. You've never, ever, ever seen your own face. So knowing that you've never seen it, you may as well smile, right? That's an amazing thought. How do you know that this is you? How do you know that's how you look? We're already projecting. May as well project in the positive. Now today, first sadhana, practice stillness. Like some of you right now. You started as exclamation marks and evolved to question marks. In either case, stillness. Number 2, cost-benefit analysis before complaining. I didn't say don't complain. Because if I say don't complain, you'll complain about don't complain. But if you do the cost-benefit analysis, you decided that vices are futile. Number 3, what's number 3? Na anushochanti panditaha. Whatever happens, that's your mantra. Mananat trayate. Keep thinking about it. You will cross over that experience. And our last sadhana is Nama Rupa Satta. Whenever there's a pause, go through that exercise. I'm going to assign words to each of these shlokas that we studied. Only if you remember can you practice. Do you agree? If you don't remember your significant other's birthday, how does that fare for you? But if you remember, you can practice, right? I find after such experiences, we just don't remember. And it's too bad that we have so many people poorly use social media because they depend on that to remember. And it's good if you use it well, but if you don't use it well, it's another crutch. So that's why I've tried to give sadhanas. Now I'm going to give a flow chart. For every shloka we studied, Here's the flow chart, okay? We start with, the first shloka was inquire. Inquire. All English verbs. Once you start to inquire, you have to, and that shloka was about the questions, remember? Kani mitrani. Once you start to inquire, you have to admit. Admit that you are disorganized. My car is the condition of my mind. Once you admit, you should want to change. That I want to grow. I need to read the shloka every day. We discussed that. Once you want to change, you start to learn. And we went through those 6 animals. What can we learn from? Even basic animals. Once we start to learn, we have to accept. Accept others, accept ourselves, and keep accepting ourselves to grow. After we accept, we have to visualize. We have to visualize how we're going to grow. If I'm a procrastinator, I need to visualize how am I going to stop being a procrastinator. Visualize. As you visualize, you have to endure. You have to endure the procrastinators because they don't want you to stop procrastinating. They will slow you down, but you have to endure their comments, their actions. As you endure, you have to know. That's K-N-O-W. And what you need to know, you have to know that there is more to life than just individuality, family, community. And I'm putting no here because all of us live for our family. Many of us live for our community, but that's where it's ended. But there's so much more to live for. There's so much more lifting that needs to be done. So no, there's more to life. Next in the flow chart is commit. Commit to the society. Commit to humanity. And if you commit, you won't be moved. Malcolm X has said, if you don't stand up for something, you will fall for everything. Commit. Once you commit, you have to start to serve what you're committed to. Serving means you start to give more of yourself to that commitment. As you're serving, it has to evolve to dedicate. It's not just some resources, time, effort. You dedicate all to what you're committed to. And if you do that, you start to love. See how much is required before we get to love. But we use this word so loosely. I love Taylor Swift. I love Taco Bell. I love rollerblading, right? And then you say you love your mother. Then you say you love Bhagwan in the same sentence. A lot of preparation to get to love. And that's not even the end. There's more. Once we love, we have to start to feel. Feel the infinite. Once you start to feel the infinite, once you start to taste the infinite, you will experience that. First you feel, then you experience. It becomes more deep. After experience is release. Release any hold on that which is finite. In other words, release the hold of the ego. And once you release, see. See means, this last shloka, vision. There is only infinity, only Advaita, only Atman. Inquire, admit, change, learn, accept, visualize, endure, know, commit, serve, dedicate, love, feel, experience, release, and see what your potential is. Sanatana Dharma is most beautiful because it is most vast. And in this vastness, evolution is natural. You've been given lots of frameworks. Find out by inquiry where you are and then evolve. And in our case, we're being reminded of this by a revolutionary. Vishnu Gupta, he was a revolutionary of his time, and even now, our time. And all he is doing is reminding us of who we are, our roles, our responsibilities. Final thought. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a long prelude to this, but I'll get to the scene. There's a cow that's with a bull, and this cow is crying. And this bull is getting beaten with a cane by a person dressed in all black. And this person has broken 3 of these bull's legs. And at that time, Raja Parikshita, who's the overseer of all of these lands, he shows up there and stops that person who's beating the bull. And first he looks after the bull, and then he addresses this person. And what does he ask that bull? He says, "Is this person who's beating you causing you sorrow? Causing you suffering?" And what does that bull say? "Raja, your question is laughable. You're asking if someone else can cause someone else sorrow." So the bull, with 3 broken legs, is saying, you're asking as if someone else can cause someone else sorrow. And if you look at the opposite way, it's laughable to think someone else can cause someone else joy. And Raja Parikshita goes on to understand that that cow is earth, that bull is dharma, and that person beating is Kali. That a dharmic person will not point to Kali and say, "This is why I am suffering." A dharmic person will say, "I am suffering because I'm allowing suffering. And I am joyous because I'm allowing joy." We are all born, giving you this more context, when Puja Swami Tapovanam was not physically well, Puja Swami Chinmayananda said, "You're not, you should come to Delhi." You all know this. There's better facilities in Delhi. And Puja Swami Tapovanam laughed and said, "Why people don't die in Delhi?" And there's more to that dialogue. He says, when I was born with a friend. He says, "Chinmaya, I was born with a friend. And for so many decades I've been ignoring this friend. Is that very nice? My friend is calling me. I have to go with my friend." Who is he calling a friend? Death. We're all born with an expiry date. And what the message here is, we don't know the expiry date. And if you don't know the expiry date, you have to eat the food now. Right? Practically. So in the same way, I don't know when my expiry date is, so I have to lift myself, by myself. I already told you about dharma. When? Now. Otherwise, atma hatya. And it's sad, there's so much physical committing of suicide that we see, but at a much greater volume is atma hatya, suicide of opportunity. You know, this Raja Parikshita, when he was in satsang, like we are, and he went into samadhi, he was at B. There was no me, we, he. There was no he either. He was B. He didn't even know that Takshaka, the most poisonous being in past or future, didn't even know that he got bit. He didn't even know the body died. What a hero. He didn't know that the body died. He didn't know that there was suffering. Parikshita. And when he was born, he was just looking. Is this the one who protected me in the womb? Is this the one who protected me in the womb? the one who's doing pariksha. That is our role model. That is what this retreat is about. I said the vision of this retreat is to evolve our purpose. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi om. Shri Gurubhyo namaha. Harihi om.